In this video, we're going to be talking about the changes coming in the mid-season patch, and also breaking down the rankings of all of the builds in this season. To spare you guys some confusion, I broke it down into a tier for tier 100 content, and a separate tier list for the Gauntlet, which is going to be based around tier 70 Nightmare Dungeons. So the biggest changes to Druid that are coming in the mid-season patch are related around the vampiric powers from Season 2. We're getting these in the form of legendary aspects. So the ones that we got are a Cursed Touch, Metamorphosis, Blood Boiling, Undying, and Moonrise. There are definitely a lot of interesting places that we could fit these into different builds, but the biggest impact I see is Blood Boiling for Pulverize, Metamorphosis technically giving us the ability to remove Bulwark or Trample from our builds, although I think I'm probably not going to use it that much because I don't really like the increase for the Evade cooldown, especially when you consider pairing that with a Juggernaut. That's way too much cooldown. It's great getting the Undying, but I don't think that Undying is going to have a big impact right now because the game's not hard enough for us to need that extra survivability. And the other one I'm excited for is the possibility of using Hectic or Moonrise in a Stormclaw build. And this is an 80% multiplier, so pairing that with the adaptability aspect is going to be a big multiplier for our basic skills. There were some general changes, but I don't think any of these are super relevant to Druid. But if you are somebody who struggles with Spirit, I think Starlight and Undying could be a great combination to help you with survivability and with keeping your Spirit up. Now for the Druid balance changes, we got multiple buffs to our basic attacks. The changes in Earthspike are mostly irrelevant, but I will say there was one change to one of our legendary aspects. Not only was Earthspike increased at its base damage, but that aspect gained a 50% damage multiplier. So there might be something with that, and something in the past that I tried was using that in a Stormclaw build, because you get the extra basic attack if you're using Nature's Fury. The other one I'm excited about is the 15% damage increase on Claw. This is going to help increase the possibility of making Stormclaw into a really strong build. Now they made it seem like companions were going to get a huge buff, and this is a big buff by most standards, but because companions are already so bad, I'm not sure if a 30% and a 45% is going to be enough to make them really good. The Poison Creeper change is definitely going to impact poison builds. And the Wolves also got a change to one of their unique items, so maybe there's a possibility of making that work. Quick Shift got a bonus, which is pretty nice. The Bestial Rampage one is massive. If you guys are familiar with some of my builds where I used a bear skill in order to get that 30% damage, well now it's a 50% multiplicative damage bonus, which makes this even more worth taking the time to try and get that 50% multiplier. Ursine Strength got a buff, probably didn't need it, but this is another good thing for a pulverized build. And Perfect Storm continues to be pretty much useless. Here's the Seismic Shift that I talked about. It gained that 50% bonus damage. And then the unique item that's changed for Wolves. It's now giving an extra point for Wolves, and it's increasing the Storm Howl damage by 180%. This is a little bit confusing because during the dev stream, they showed two different numbers, and I think it was about a 10 times damage increase. This looks to only be 180%, so I'm not sure what happened there, but it's something I'll have to test. And keep in mind, apparently they fixed snapshotting, so hopefully snapshotting is no longer a thing. But there's so many bugs in this game, be prepared for this to either not work or for people to find new ways to exploit it. By the way, just a reminder, if you go in the information under this video, you can find a link to my Mobalytics profile, and there you can find all of the builds that I'm talking about in this video. So like I said, I made two tier lists. The one on the left here is for tier 100 content, and the one on the right is for the Gauntlet. Now for the left, I have played the Lightning Storm build to its full extent, the Boulder build to its full extent, Tornado, Shred, Pulverize, Stormclaw, Landslide, and this Infinite Lacerate build. I'm obviously going to retouch some of these as I optimize them for the Gauntlet, and the massive changes to Stormclaw and some of the changes to Pulverize makes me want to revisit those. And also the companion changes, I'll probably end up touching that as well. But for right now, based on the patch notes and what I've tested previously, this is about where I'd rank them. And keep in mind that this is based around carrying a full party in tier 100 content. So in S tier, we've got the Lightning Storm, the Boulder, and the Tornado. The Lightning Storm and the Boulder are really good for clearing high density, and the Tornado is a little bit better if you have less targets. So I think Tornado, once we're in Gauntlet, is going to be a little bit better because there's less density. Then for the A tier, I've got the Shred, the Pulverize, Stormclaw, straight Landslide build, and the Stormclaw I'm not sure about right now. Once I get a chance to see how much damage we can actually pull out of it, I think this one could end up being a tier 100 S tier. And the reason for that is because the survivability is crazy, but it just didn't have the damage before this patch to even make it out of B tier. So we'll see if the changes in this patch are going to push it all the way up to S tier, or if it just sits at a nice A. For Shred, it's an extremely fast and snappy build, and I think it's likely going to be pretty good in the Gauntlet, but the main reason it's an A tier for tier 100 content is because it can't kill bosses nearly as fast as some of the S tier ones. And that's still a consideration that I'm going to keep for the Gauntlet, but because Gauntlet is tier 70, I'm hoping that it has enough damage for bosses that the increased speed and ease of using it makes it good enough to be an S tier. But it's possible if it doesn't kill the bosses fast enough that it'll drop down to an A. For our B tier, for tier 100 content, we've got the traditional trample slide, and then we've got Ace of Spades Rabies build. I haven't actually played on this one this season, but as far as I know, it's not great on bossing. I'm not sure if he puts it in A tier or B tier, but I'm gonna put it in B tier just because I don't want to oversell something I haven't tried. And I was thinking that maybe in Gauntlet this could be a better build, but because of the lack of density, I'm not sure if this really makes sense. Then for the C tier, we've got the companion build. Again, I haven't had a chance to test the new changes, but I'm not sure there was enough added there to make it anywhere reasonably good. Maybe this could go up to a B, but I'd have to get my hands on it and see how it feels. Now for the Gauntlet side, there's multiple different ways that this could end up going. I listed Tornado as my top pick because Tornado has the highest and quickest single target damage. It doesn't require any time to build up your lightning strikes to be able to get maximum damage on single target. And with my Rushnado build, it's extremely mobile. If the bosses are weak enough, then maybe Shred will overtake this. But if we need that extra damage, it's definitely going to be this or Lightning Storm. Another consideration if we need more boss damage is the Boulder build. But with the lack of density in the dungeons, I feel like Tornado is going to overtake Boulder. So my guess is that it's going to be between Rushnado or Sonic Shred. Now a wild card here is the Stormclaw. With the changes that they put in for Stormclaw, I actually intend to take Stormclaw as my first build into the Gauntlet. I'll probably end up using Shred on it just to have an extra gap closer, but the ability to run while attacking with Stormclaw seems pretty good. But again, it might not have the damage and I'll just end up dropping it and going with something else. Now with the changes in the patch notes, I think the Pulverize is actually going to be in a pretty good spot, but we don't really need a lot of AoE clear, so I'm not sure Pulverize is going to be where it's at. Then we've got the traditional Trample Slide. I wasn't sure where to place this one. I know that it has a lot of mobility, but the damage on it's a little bit chaotic and I'm not sure if it's going to have the single target necessary to be able to do well in the Gauntlet. But I don't think it's going to be bad, so I dropped it in A tier. Then for the pure landslide spamming, I put this in A tier. Cocosaur made a build recently and she swears by it. She says that she can walk and kill things while she's moving the entire time. And so she thinks that this is going to be good enough to do well in Gauntlet. I've seen her kill a Butcher in a tier 100 doing a 4-man carry, which means the build's strong enough. She just has to see if she can make it fast enough. By the way, if you want to try Cocosaur's build, I'm going to put a link underneath the video, and I'm also going to include a link to her stream because she's an awesome Twitch streamer. So just to summarize a little bit, if I had to put my money on it, I would say Rushnado or Sonic Shred. I'm hoping for the Stormclaw wildcard to be amazing, but I'm not going to put any money on it. And there's definitely a lot of space for a good Lightning Storm or Boulder player to also do really well. And Lightning Storm or Boulder would have been my picks if there was more density, but who knows, only time will tell. I hope you guys like this video, and I can't wait to see you in the Gauntlet. Daddy Druid out of here. What you looking at?